Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sword and Tea, the Sword and Key chat show where we talk to game creators, game designers, and everybody in between. I am realizing that this is not the music that I actually wanted to be playing right now, but that's because my headphones were connected to the wrong thing. We've done this before. We don't do this super often because we really like to take time with our game creators, and we are joined once again by a very lovely game creator, Megan here. Thank you. Welcome back. It's very nice to see you. As I was mentioned before, I believe you are the only game designer as of yet that is a return guest. So, second time, but first in that category. So, say thank you so much for spending time with us again.
Yes, thank you for having me. It was a blast the first time and I'm so happy to be back.
We're so happy to have you. We are chatting today about your new game, O Patron Mine. A game in a long line of amazing games that you have made before. Last time you joined us, we talked about Hunter Hunted, a fantastic game with a non-traditional kind of playing style. I think, in a way, O Patron Mine also has a non-traditional playing style, not exactly played with dice, but still an interesting mechanic that I think lends itself to some really cool storytelling. So I'm so excited to chat about that today. Before we jump back into stuff, for those who might be unfamiliar with yourself, what is your if you're going to give yourself a
What's your
TTRPG
deal?
resume, what might you say?
Um, yeah, so I am Megan. I use she her pronouns. I am most places on the internet, Megan Lynn for the win. Where I'm either shit posting or a lot of shit posting. Um,
Somebody's got to do
but it's a hard job, but somebody's got to
it.
do it. Indiana is also here. Apparently she's decided now is the perfect time to go dig through her toy box, so
For sure.
there's
Yeah.
that.
Welcome,
um
Indiana. Welcome to the show.
uh I am a indie TTRPG writer and designer. I design mostly almost entirely GMless games, narrative driven games, a lot of character creation games. So I really like creating games that don't need a GM, and a lot of solo games to really just aid in storytelling. That's really my biggest drive as a TTRPG writer is really story focused, narrative focused games.
Absolutely.
So
And
that's my deal.
I love that. I love that. We are big fans of solo TTRPGs, especially since this channel brings people from all over the country, sometimes all over the world together, only further proving that the hardest thing about TTRPGs is just finding other people to play with. So a solo TTRPG is always very much appreciated and a wonderful writing tool, especially for those people who are creatively minded and don't always want to spend 3 hours necessarily collaboratively, but definitely like prompts. This game, I think, definitely lends itself to that. So I definitely want to touch on O Patron Mine because I don't want us to go too long into this without really creating some touchstones for it. So elevator pitch for O Patron Mine. It's a game about
Yeah, so what I've been saying is the very, very reductive elevator pitch for O Patron Mine is that it is a warlock backstory generator game.
yes.
The somewhat less reductive elevator pitch is that it is a tarot based and tarot inspired solo game about the meeting between a mundane person and a supernatural entity and the pact that is forged as a result of that meeting that can be used as a standalone game or as a backstory creation tool for a larger campaign.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think people who are fluent with D&D, familiar with D&D, might immediately think of the warlock when they look at
Mm-hmm.
this. Um, but at the same time, as I was reading through, I was like, actually, thinking of like Monster of the Week, or Eva had just put a book on my chair today, which is like this grim dark, brimstone-esque, and there's all these different classes of horror and everything. I'm sure there's one in there that connects
Mm-hmm.
to some sort of like, ultra powerful deity. Like warlocks in D&D don't have the monopoly on making
Right.
deals with powerful entities.
Yes.
And I think that's a very interesting story concept to come up with, and definitely a trope that has so many options to it. So I really love that you have structured out those options, created a sense of randomness, but also using tarot, like the sense of fate to it as
Mhm.
well. I think is a very cool construct to it, because you could absolutely put this to dice rolls, but having attributes assigned to the major tarot, the major arcana deck, is so very cool. So um before we jump into the specifics of like what card means what, gameplay, everything like that, what is your background with tarot? Are you a big tarot person? Are you a big um like, what do I say, horoscope kind of person, or
Um,
how far
I
into mysticism do you delve?
yeah, so I growing up, I was raised in a family where my mother was convinced that tarot was the devil and that we would be summoning something horrible into our home if I were to touch any of that. So I've always been very interested in tarot, but it was very much verboten um,
Mhm.
as I was growing up. But in the last few years, I've like my interest in it has peaked a lot, largely in part to a lot of friends that I have that are years and years practitioners of tarot that are very practiced um, with it, and just seeing what they do and what they're able to expound from tarot just like even further piques my interest. And I have a lot of tarot decks because the art is always gorgeous. So that was like one of the bigger draws of was
For
like
sure.
artists that I love were were designing tarot decks. So a lot of my interest came in that, and I um have done a lot of reading and a lot of like guidebooks and things like that, and especially like writing this game, I delved very intensely into doing it from like a research perspective, to glean the meaning from the cards and things like that. But it's definitely something that I've always had at least somewhat of an interest in.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, I mean, I think you're absolutely right. The card art can be absolutely gorgeous.
mhm,
I am sitting here prepared with the official Dungeons and Dragons tarot deck, which is like beautiful cardstock. It's got great artwork on it. Friend of mine also gifted me the Hobbit tarot deck that I've broken out from time to time as well. So I love the variations on it,
mhm,
and it really is one of those kind of like really pervasive things. People are kind of drawn to it. um yeah, I used to work at Barnes and Noble, and tarot and the Bible were the two things that were most stolen in our store, which I think is really ironic, because I know there's also something about like, tarot is best to be gifted to someone else, um and that like stealing it is like a really great way to like screw yourself over when it comes to tarot. That's like, it's a big faux pas with it, if not like an actual like spiritual faux pas. So I always found that really funny. But yeah, obviously people, they want to know what's going on. They want some sort of driver to it. And I've had friends before that also, really point to it as, maybe it's not telling you your future, but maybe
mhm,
it's prompting you to think about certain things in your life and evaluate them. Maybe with a card that might point towards financial situations of some sort. Maybe it's time to think about where you're putting your money, or relationship questions. Where could you be working harder towards your relationship, things like that. So
mhm,
I've always found tarot very interesting for that. But I also agree that I grew up in a household that wasn't like, you're going to bring in evil things, but it was always just like, listen, we're going to church every Sunday, don't mess with ghosts, but also grandpa has a Ouija board in the closet, we're not going to talk about it. Like, it's Parker Brothers brand, but still, we're not going to talk about why it's there. um so yeah, I love, again, the randomness that tarot
mhm.
brings to O Patron Mine. And so to the next quality of the game, are you a big Warlock fan when it comes to D&D? Like, what's your go-to class?
Um, so I play exclusively warlocks.
Okay, okay.
I've played, I think, two non-warlock characters in like the 10 years I've been playing D&D. Like, I warlocks. I wrote this game, like the main driving force behind writing this game, it started off as me just wanting to create some warlock patrons. Because I always feel like warlocks are not given enough
For sure.
in the player's handbook. And I haven't played D&D for several years at this point, but I've always felt that way. And warlocks are very special to me. And I'm like, warlocks don't get enough. Like, for all of the potential that the class holds, players aren't given enough to make them as cool as they could be. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's this built-in backstory element, like with the relationship between the patron and the warlock, and like it should be embraced more by players and by GMs. And I'm like, I'm just gonna make some warlock patrons. I'm gonna put them on Blue Sky, Twitter, whatever. Like, I'm just gonna make some patrons. I'm gonna put them out, and that's that. Like, I've done my part. Here are some patrons that are cooler than your standard 3. And then that turned into, well, what if I made some patrons that are inspired by the major arcana? Like, maybe I'll do that. I'm like, okay. Like, that's 22. Like, that's plenty
For sure.
for there to be. And then it turned into, well, what if this was just its own thing? That wasn't necessarily like, these are warlock patrons. It's just, these are like any game that involves any kind of character that could have a relationship with some supernatural, otherworldly, powerful being. Like, it works for anything. And then it became, well, what if this was a game, and what if instead of 22 things, I'm writing 66 prompts, because the scope creep is so real. And then like 8 months later, this was a thing.
Yeah,
but
and it's a very cool thing. So
yeah,
that's amazing.
and I owe a lot of it to my friend Emma, who consulted on it, who's been practicing tarot for over a decade. As soon as I realized, like, I want this to be very tarot inspired, like I want this to read like the card is manifested as a physical entity. Like, what do they look like? What would they want? Where would they be hanging out? Like, where would you meet somebody like this? And I realized I was way in over my head as far as my knowledge of tarot and what I wanted the game to be. And reached out to Emma and was like, can you please help me? Like, I have wandered out of the shallow end and I cannot swim. And she was fantastic with just like, I would write and she would like pop into the doc and be like, you're on the right track here, or like, this is a little reductive, like try, like some people interpret like this card this way, like maybe go in this direction. And that was such a huge help in making it the way that it is.
Yeah.
And hello, Raiders, welcome.
Hello.
Hope you like warlocks.
Yeah, I hope you do. If you don't, try again.
Don't stick around, you will.
We'll find something for you. For those of you just joining us, this is Sword and Tea. This is a Sword and Key chat show where we talk about game creators. We are joined by the very lovely Megan. And I should mention at the top, you are more than welcome to have a warm or cold beverage to yourself. My mug today is the Fantasy Costco, where all your dreams come true from the Adventure Zone.
There's no swearing in the Fantasy Costco.
There's no swearing in the Fantasy Costco. So that is my mug today. I will actually kind of toss this out here real quick. I would recommend you check out Friday Teas, which is based here in the Pacific Northwest. Friday Tea is a fantastic tea shop that makes dozens, and actually I would say probably hundreds, of tea variations, many of which are based on your favorite nerdy properties. So you're guaranteed to find something that you would like. We are not currently officially affiliated with Friday Tea, but we consider ourselves friends, and really want to support that business as much as possible, because Friday is an incredible human being, and Sword and Tea is actually making a Sword and Tea. So we, Eva and I, are currently trying a few new variations to get an official Sword and Tea that you could purchase through the website. So keep an eye out for that in the relative near future. Until then, definitely check out Friday Teas. And I believe you can use, I will throw this out there as one of our mods, and she'll get support from this, code the Lady Dame. I believe it's the Lady Dame, DAME, to get 10% off your purchase there. So check them out. Megan, what are you drinking today? You have a lovely mug there.
I am drinking my all-time favorite tea, which is Many Worlds Taverns, which is another amazing geeky tabletop inspired coffee and tea company. This is Many World Taverns Sacred Spring, which is a cinnamon plum hibiscus.
That sounds nice.
It is.
Okay.
It is so good. It is my all-time favorite tea. It's so perfectly spicy. Like it's got like such a good spice to it, but not like overbearingly so. But it's because it's mellowed out by like the plum and like the fruitiness of the plum and like the somewhat like acidic bitterness of the hibiscus. Like it's just such a good blend. And it's perfect. Like it just started snowing outside, so I'm like, this is the perfect like winter snowy tea, and I love it very much.
Yes, we have freezing rain here, so I agree. It is the perfect time for warm tea. I actually, because you were talking about your tarot consultant, I presume this is Lady Dread. We were referencing as your tarot consultant. Okay.
Yes.
Great. So you have I don't want to go too far without mentioning some of the wonderful people you worked with on this. So editing done by Nathaniel, is it Kryman?
Kryman. Yes, Nat they edit all of my games, so any game that you may have in a physical form has passed through Nat's hands first, for the better, because I am a very wordy girl and they really love turning paragraphs into sentences. Always for the better, but I don't have the heart to do it myself. So
yes, I agree.
Thank your editors. Always thank your editors. Yes, Nat did the editing. The beautiful layout was by Caden Ramstack. And the cover art is by the wonderful Mac V, who also did the cover art for Sanctuary and Sentinel, whom I adore as an artist and as a person. So I was very happy. And then Emma, the Lady Dread, consulted from the tarot aspect, and then I did all the insidey stuff. I did the words part.
It is a beautiful doc. The PDF that you sent me is absolutely gorgeous. I am an absolute sucker for purple and gold, and the logo is with the broken chain, the two hands. It's so cool. It's just gorgeous throughout. The layout's beautiful.
Mac literally, like, this is how literally everything that Mac has ever designed for me goes. Is I go, hey, I've got this game. This is what it's about. Can you draw the cover? And I give nothing else. And she comes up with the most beautiful things. She's like, oh, something like this. I'm like, yep, that's exactly what I wanted. I couldn't have described that to you, but this is exactly what I wanted. In case anyone, this is my test print of it. So this is the beautiful cover, and then that's the beautiful insidey layout. It might be one of the prettiest things.
It's fantastic. And while you're showing that off, that is the test print. So folks who get a physical copy could expect something of that exact size. Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect for a jacket pocket when you're at a con and having a conversation and you just pull something out like a spy. That'd be perfect.
Perfect to fit into like any game bag, anything like that. Like I purposely wanted to be very small, very compact, like a tarot guidebook. You could slip it into a bag with a deck of tarot cards. You could slip it in with your D&D stuff, your game books, like that kind of stuff. So I wanted it to be like nice, small, compact, easy to carry around.
I am very much a go bag kind of GM, even though most of the stuff I do is online. I always have like a set of dice within reach. You never know when you're going to need them. And that absolutely feels like it needs to go in a GM go bag, especially for like first time you're playing. You've got a player who's like, maybe I'll give Warlocks a try. And you just slide that across the table. It's like, okay, you're going to put some thought into this. Because absolutely, to an earlier point you were making, the player's handbook gives like, okay, you can have something evil, something Cthulhu, or I can never remember what the third option is in Player's
Archfey,
Hand.
which
Is
is
it
the one
it's
that I
Archfey?
which
Yeah,
is the one that
or
I always pick because it's less boring than
yeah.
Cthulhu and evil.
Yeah, it's like, okay, a great old one, we know what that means. Or yes, a
Legally
devil,
distinct
which
Cthulhu.
very straightforward. Yeah, yeah. Tentacly and you know, you get Hunger of Hadar and everything. But even when you get into the later ones that they introduce with like Hexblade and Celestial,
So,
Hexblade always felt way too like it could be so much more, and yet it felt so limited to the suggestions that they gave. Like, oh, it's an evil knife. That's it. It's like it just
it's an
you're
evil
absolutely
axe.
right.
It's an evil
Yeah.
male. It's an evil like
Yeah, it
or
always
mall.
felt like there should be so much more, that there should be mechanics for the deal that you've made, for the entity that you have paired with. It is a class that I think leans a little too much on the player and the GM, as opposed to some other classes like, you know, maybe like Wizard, which is like, okay, you went to college, here's all the stuff that you know, here's how you know it, here's your
Mhm.
spell book. Your spell book can be anything, and you have up with this or this. And Warlock is like, all right, well, you're evil, I guess,
And
or you know, kind of close to evil, or cursed, or I don't know. Yeah.
yeah, and I just always felt that it was like I know how I play, and I am like I'm the elf with the 10-page backstory. Like that's like I put in some might say too much, I might say too much work into backstories when I come to the table with a new character. But I wanted to make something for the people that either have a hard time coming up with ideas on their own, like don't have the time to commit to like sitting down and making something from like whole cloth, and just like something that is guided enough that it gives you jumping off points, but not so guided that you get to make it your own. So like I was making something for the people like me who get really into backstories, but also for folks who might want to be more in depth with it but don't know where to go.
Yeah.
um
Yeah, the story prompt
because,
aspect of
yeah,
it, of
because in like I wanted to focus on the pact aspect of it, because I feel like that is completely brushed over.
yes.
Like that is addressed merely in you have a pact, but what is it?
Mm-hmm.
What's the agreement? Like what did you agree to? What do you get out of it? What does the patron get out of it? Like why did you like why did they pick you? Like, and that's what I really wanted to dig into with this game as a backstory tool. You can also play it on its own if you just want a nice little like 30-45 minute writing exercise that maybe could be something later down the road. But like as a backstory tool, I wanted it to be something that digs into that aspect of it, both from the player and for the GM who would be playing the patron. Like I wanted to give
Absolutely.
both player and GM just more meat on the bone.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, you're absolutely right, because it is so much of, you have a pact, you get Eldritch Blast, and then it's just class options, class options all the way down, but nothing
more.
else to that. Yeah, absolutely. One of my favorite bits of folklore, because you know, we talked about this in Hunter Hunted, but you know, big monster guy personally. Love a bit of folklore, but one of my favorite pieces is meeting the devil at the crossroads.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the classic musician story of making a deal with the devil wore a suit and showed up as a a slimy white guy at the crossroads, and made a deal that you'd be the best guitar player, but you know, you're gonna have to sell your soul. And so that crossroads concept, and the concept of like hellhounds coming after you, always a very cool thing of making that deal. The Faustian deal is
Mm-hmm.
also very interesting. You know, it's a twist on, oh, I'm gonna make a deal with a genie. Well, what about making a deal with something that has malicious motives, something
Right.
that isn't, you know, that is actively working against you, but has to do it in a way that is subtle, or maybe isn't working totally against you, but has plans that aren't beneficial to you in the long
Mm-hmm.
run, you know. And
Yeah.
again, like, you have to, it wants you to stay part of the contract for a long period of time, so how does it manage that?
Yeah. And like I come from a place like a warlock as a warlock main, not in Destiny, but in D&D.
Fair. I respect that.
Hunter main for life. However, I also wanted to explore an aspect of like, what if it's not a purely antagonistic relationship? What if it's not like what does the patron get out of it? Like why are they making the offer? Like focusing more on why are they making the offer more so than why are you accepting it?
Mm-hmm.
Like trying to think of from that aspect, like there has to be a reason. It could just be, oh, they're bored and they think this would be fun, or it could be like, I need something done that only a human can do.
Mm-hmm.
Like things like that, like digging into the why of it. That's not just like, well, I'm evil and this
Yeah,
is why I'm doing it. Like,
there's a meme that's gone around somewhat recently that describes warlocks, I think, in a very interesting way, and folks might have seen this before, but it describes like, you know, to a warlock patron, a mortal is essentially an ant. So why could we not be warlock patrons to ants? And it's the concept of like, if you had a whole bunch of ants like spinning in a circle, all with like, a piece of cheesecake in the center, it would probably catch your attention. The ants aren't going for like they're trying to summon you, and then once they summon you, like stuff's never going to go right. If you have an ant that comes to you and asks you to make a deal, that it wants to fall in love with one other ant, the most efficient way for you to do that is to kill all of the ants except for the one and the one that it loves. And then, you have the ant looking at its six hands going, what have I done? That's because what else are you going to do? So especially to the reverse of that, if you as a person need to achieve something at the ant-like level, you need to ask an ant to do that, to get that minor thing done. So I do like that. Yes, the deal has to be both ways, because otherwise, why is it beneficial?
yeah.
If your average fiend is only getting a soul out of it, why is that important? Why is getting a soul out of it? Or
Mm-hmm.
if you're celestial and asking something,
Or why this soul
why this exact person? Yeah.
versus anything else? Like there has to be, I guess there doesn't have to be. In my mind, there has to be a reason,
It's
and that
more
just
interesting. Yeah.
it's more interesting, and then it serves to further the story from a narrative aspect. Like if you're doing this for a longer term campaign, like if you're doing this and building this patron warlock relationship like with your GM, they now have all of this stuff that they can weave into their story that they're telling.
Yes.
Which, and even like I've also said, like you could just use O Patron Mine like as a GM to create cool otherworldly dudes. Like you can create weird little guys
I
to,
love making a weird little guy.
like you can make a weird little guy that you can just plop in your campaign and see if any of your players will make deals with them.
Yeah. As a constant GM who has now had 3 different warlocks, one the same player, but like having broken 2 packs now in a game, and then another one who just decided to befriend her patron and turn him away from evil. Like, I love a warlock introduction because it gives another, like in the first major game in our Horizon Skull game, it was like the main antagonist of the first season was one character's warlock patron, who then she had to break that pact, create a pact with something even more terrifying to defeat that warlock patron. And then, yeah, I see Shadow in chat. Shadow, being in our Humblewood game, has befriended a demi-lich who was like bent on like conquering the world just with friendship. And I love the power of friendship. Yes,
my last warlock married her patron.
that's also an option. I love that.
In post game, because she was an artist and her patron was like a goddess of art, and she like saw her and was like, you are my muse and I will follow you to the ends of the earth. And the whole back half of the campaign was like trying to figure out how to make herself immortal so that she could be with her patron. And then in the post game, they're immortal girlfriends, and I love them. So that's why I'm like, patrons don't always like, it doesn't need to be antagonistic. It could be like you could have like a buddy cop warlock patron duo.
Yeah.
I
Subverting that power imbalance is very
I
interesting.
just decided to take U-Haul lesbians to a whole new level. And I was like, what if in love?
You haul lesbians to the Feywild.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
What if in love?
Wow, we've gotten so deep into this. But no, I actually think
I have a lot of warlock thoughts.
I'm glad we're getting them out. The thing that I think warlocks always really needed, and something that I think this game does, is a clear differentiation between them and paladins. You know, the joke is that paladins say "Our Father," where warlocks say "Yes, Daddy," and it needs to be, I think, a little bit more.
Paladins are warlocks with extra steps.
Yeah, paladins are they both get on their knees, but for different reasons, right? That's the classic thing to it. So, but having again, there be something to both sides on it, because a paladin feels. It should feel, I think, more one-sided. I think a paladin very much in the way of like praying to a god, a more powerful deity.
Right.
That is a lopsided power balance, where warlock is a deal. And making a deal, both sides should compromise, and both sides should be equal, at least on that original footing. So,
right.
and you know, unless you have one going to the other, you have somebody in a time of desperate need reaching out for power, or much to your point, a powerful entity in a time of need reaching out to someone seemingly not powerful, but the one person that could help them in their need.
They're both active members of the deal, whereas
Absolutely.
Whereas a god can't just be like somebody's like, I'm gonna devote myself to this god and be a paladin of this god. The god's not gonna be like, no, I don't know. There isn't like a give and take there. They might pray to their god, but like, do they hear back? Like, whereas like a warlock and their patron, like, it is a deal that they have both actively consented and created the deal together, whether or not it's fair terms or under duress or things like that is up to each individual pact to decide. But like, I feel like it's a much more like, there's still a power imbalance, but it's not, it's
more of a conversation.
It's like entry level to middle manager versus entry level to CEO.
Right. Yeah, your email is going to junk on that second one, but maybe it's getting read on the
second. You've got to go to the executive admin before you can get up there, whereas like, you can just go to your patron and be like, hey.
But yeah, it has to be a conversation. I love that then, like you said before, that conversation extends above table to player and GM. And I'm a firm believer that like frequent check-ins, especially when you have that character relationship of, you know, I'm not doing frequent check-ins with my ranger. They're fine. They're doing great. As long as they have an animal companion, that thing's fine. It's great. But I'm doing frequent check-ins with paladins, with warlocks, with or like anybody who has romantic relationships. Like, we're talking above table to make sure that like this is a path that you are comfortable with, or maybe comfortably uncomfortable with, you know, pushing yourself outside of a familiar zone. So I absolutely love O Patron Mine. I'm really excited to actually delve into the game, but I would love to take a halfway point break, because I think this is probably going to be right around our halfway point. So we will be right back. Please check out the Kickstarter for O Patron Mine, which is currently up. You can find that with !patron in chat. Please check out some of Megan's games as well. There is an itch, itch.io for Megan Lynn, FTW, Megan Lynn for the win. And you can check out all of Sword and Key stuff at beacons.ai/Sword and Key. Definitely check out some of our affiliates there. We have some lovely ones, including Hit Point Press, makers of Humblewood and the Islands of Sina Una, number of other excellent things. Eldritch Foundry for custom minis. Long Dog Dice, which is our new affiliate for dice. Fantastic dice maker over there. And as well as Wishbone Cosmetics, if you're looking for some really cool makeup palettes for your next fantasy vibe. We will be back in about 10 to 15. Do the things, pet your pets, and get yourself a cup of tea. We'll see you soon. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to Sword and Tea, the Sword and Key chat show where we talk to game designers, game creators, people in the TTRPG space about cool stuff, especially stuff that they make. And we are joined once again by the very wonderful Megan Lynn. Thank you again so much for joining us. Again, our first return guest. It's very exciting. And we are talking about O Patron Mine, a warlock or I guess pact building game. I never want to stick it strictly just to D&D because there are so many games out there. And as you mentioned, it's been a while since you played D&D, but a way for you to create cool stories about mere mortals interacting with beings of ultimate power and some really cool prompts for that. So we've talked a lot about inspiration and we've danced a lot around O Patron Mine. I think it's about time we actually jumped into the game itself. So, how does one play O Patron Mine?
It is very easy. It's very simple. O Patron Mine is played with the major arcana of a tarot deck, and all you do is you shuffle together the major arcana of the tarot, and you will put 3 cards face down in front of you. And one at a time, you will flip a card and resolve the prompts associated with that card and then move on to the next one. And the way that it is set up is that the first card you flip is the who. Who is this entity? What do they look like? What is it like when you first see them? What emotions are evoked? What aesthetic do they have? What's the tone of their appearance? So that's your first card is who. Your second card is where. So where you met them, what are the circumstances behind this meeting, where physically are you located, maybe what events, if any, are happening, who is nearby, if anyone. And then the final card is what. What do they ask of you to enter into this pact? Which could be anything. There are 22 very different options for what that patron will ask of you, and depending on what position that card is played in determines what they are. You can play the game. There is a 1 card variation if you want really a more aesthetic through line, that you can just draw 1 card and answer all of the prompts for that 1 card. But the prompts are written in a way that they will feed into each other and can work together. So Brian from Many Side Media did the math, and it's over 9,000 different combinations.
Yeah, I also did the math because that's how much I like this game.
I don't do math. That's my boundary. That's self-care.
Yeah, I didn't, but then I started teaching elementary kids and realized that I need to look up how to do math again. So yes, when it comes to permutations, which that's actually a question I have for you. So with permutations, it's 9,240. With combinations, it's 1,540. And so what I wanted to ask was, when you're drawing a card, you're not reshuffling, right? So you're never drawing the same card twice?
No.
Okay.
No, it's 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. I think in that sense, there's 1,540 different combinations that you can make. If you were to draw the card every time, I think it's 9,000. But again, I'm not great at math, so don't quote me on that.
That's still
lots of opportunities.
Lots of replayability.
Yeah,
that's like,
and I suppose technically you could reshuffle if you really wanted to. I don't think that's the way.
I mean, you could.
Written. Yeah.
But
yeah, pulling each 3.
What was that? 1,000.
1,540.
All right, divided by 20. Whoop, nope. 20. So that's like you're getting like 2 cents. You buy the zine for $20. You're paying, or no, it's like less than a penny per warlock.
Less than a penny per warlock combination.
So
yeah, you're getting your money's worth for sure.
It
Mathematically, it pays for itself. And even think about it, like how many are you going to play? Over 1,000 warlocks in your life, maybe. And this could help with that. Absolutely.
you never know.
Um, I do love that it does have a character creation section just in case you are playing this as standalone, but absolutely it does lend itself to be built into to other games. Like I mentioned before, I think you could do some really cool stuff with this and Monster of the Week.
Yeah.
You could, yeah, I mean, there's the Fate system, I'm sure has tons of stuff for this,
Yeah, I
and yeah,
like yeah, D&D was the main inspiration
for sure,
behind it, but I definitely want it to be clear, and I try to make it clear that it is not, so like that is not its sole purpose. Like there are tons of other games that can that you can apply this to, um
for sure.
for
I also
sure.
love that sole purpose could be spelled Soul, and that's a great double entendre. Um, awesome. So yeah, like I said, first card's the who, second card's the where, third card's the what. For those people who might be unfamiliar with the major arcana, that's like the Fool card and the Devil card and the
Yeah,
the
not the
ones that
numbered
aren't,
ones.
yeah, not the tens of hearts and swords and all that kind of
Hmm.
stuff. Um, which again, I think that, like you were mentioning before, kind of reaching out to an expert in tarot,
Hmm.
referencing Lady Dread for this. There is that barrier to tarot where I think that's also where ignorance for some people comes in, where it's like, oh, it has a devil card, that must mean evil, death must mean literal death.
Right.
And just 10 seconds of research will tell you that's
Mhm.
not what it means. That death means change, and the
Yes.
devil
Yeah.
means like subversions of things. So yeah, I fully respect that, because yeah, I'm also not a tarot
Yeah.
expert by any
And
means, but
that was definitely like my biggest thing. Like as soon as I realized exactly what I wanted this game to be, like one of my biggest, like my two biggest things were like making it interesting, like making interesting, cool patrons, but
mhm,
also doing right by tarot and the practice of tarot and its meanings, and making sure that, since like I can't make this game that's claiming to be very tarot inspired if I'm not doing it right.
yeah,
So having somebody else to say like, yes, this, like you're in the right direction, things like that, because like there is so much like the biggest thing about tarot is the interpretation of it.
absolutely.
um so definitely wanting to not fall into like the pitfalls of seeing the name of a card and assuming what it is.
Mhm. I do also have now this image in my mind of a Warlock patron session one describing how they got their patron and putting down literal tarot cards, and that describing literally
Mm.
what they're going to get, figuring out what they're going to get
Yeah,
in and
as if
out
there
of.
is a GM variant play. So like there are
Mhm,
two variations of play. The first I mentioned was playing with just one card, but then I did also put in a variation, that you can play this two-player with a game master. And rather than responding to the prompts in journaling form as if you were playing by yourself, you use the prompts as guides for role-playing scenes, wherein the GM would play the patron and the player would play their character, if you were playing this as a lead up to a larger campaign, which I love, because I'm the kind of person where if I can play a game to create a character backstory instead of just sitting down and writing it, that's what I
mhm.
want to do. And then it invites the GM into the character creation aspect of it and gives them more insight into what your character is about and what this relationship is about, which will make their GMing easier, and it
Mhm.
will also just give you more of a, rather than just showing up me like, this is my character's deal, learn things about my character. It's they were an active part of this part of the character creation.
Yeah, it's the
And I just love two
collaboration.
player and I just love two-player role play. Like I just love
Yeah,
role playing one-on-one.
I firmly agree with you. I think some of my most the memorable and fun games are two-player games, just
Mm-hmm.
bouncing off of one other person. Um, Well, I definitely would leave a little bit of mystery to all of the selections, because again, there's 22 cards and well over 1,000 permutations, if not well over 9,000, depending on if I did my math right. Um, so I would love to at least like draw through once and
Yeah,
see what we come up with. So
absolutely.
I do have I have my official Dungeons and Dragons tarot that was gifted to me over the holidays by a very lovely friend. I have thoroughly shuffled my 22 um my combination here
All
of
right.
all of my tarots. So
Yeah, if you want to
let's
draw and I'll read
yeah,
prompts.
please. Okay. My first card is going to be the Hanged Man.
Ooh,
Very,
okay.
it's kind of cool art there. It's almost got a like portal into the Shadowfell there on the
Oh, that's
Dungeons and
cool.
Dragons one. It's very beautiful.
The Hanged Man always makes me think of Dragon Age. Always.
Yes.
I cannot think of the Hanged Man without thinking of Dragon Age too.
I always think of the Ninth Gate when it comes to the Hanged Man. If you've ever seen that kind of obscure Johnny Depp film about a book written by the devil, it's very great. It's like slow, but it has like a noir kind of vibe
Hmm,
to it. Anyway, that's not what we're doing.
I might have to look into that. All right. So the Hanged Man. They flit among passers-by, asking each to select a gift from their collection of varied trinkets. As you approach, their eyes light with recognition. They know you. How do they look different from the sea of people around them? Do you want all the questions or do you want to do them one at a time?
Let's do them one at a time. I like
Yeah.
that. Um, Definitely the idea of selecting a gift from a collection of varied trinkets. I think of a person who is like just burdened by baubles all over them. Like the outside of their coat has all of these little like things hooked to it, and it's just like especially flitting amongst passerbys. I'm thinking more like old cronish and definitely just like people are like almost like a rock in a river passing around this person as she's more just like forcing little tokens on people and kind of just like muttering to her breath as she does, little statuettes or little like pieces of animal bone or whatever, just like kind of pressing them onto people as they pass by. Yeah, that's definitely like a Resident Evil merchant is kind of what my brain's
Mm.
going towards. Yeah.
All right. How do they know you when you don't know them?
Oh, I like that question. I also like that maybe not having an immediate answer. How do they know you when you don't know them? Yeah, because this is definitely a person that feels like they
Mhm.
stand out amongst like all of these normal people that are almost beige amongst the multi-colors and almost like clashing colors, because almost like in my brain it's going to like motley at a certain point for what this person's wearing and just all mishmashed. um I think maybe it's this concept of like everybody else is moving except for that person and me, and maybe there's a memory of like this person came into, thinking in the strictly fantasy sense, came to a tavern like years and years ago, and for a while there as a kid having nightmares about this old woman who now seems like just as old as she did like decades ago, and here she is once again, and it's just like having tunnel vision with this literal nightmare as she's like staring you down.
Ooh. All right. And then the last one is a two-parter. What trinket do you select and what prophecy do they share as you take it?
um let's go with a like six-sided dice that has six on all of the sides, and the prophecy that they share. That's tough because that definitely feels like, oh, I'm gonna make this for my character. um let's say it's a prophecy about having to make a terrible choice, a sacrifice for something great. that yeah, let's maybe say it's a prophecy about having to make a choice, having to decide between two things, both being life-changing things.
Hmm,
I'm sure I could make that more fancy if I
interesting.
had time to actually write out a prophecy, but my brain isn't making rhymes right now, so whatever.
All right.
Okay.
What's
Ne-
what's
Next card,
next? Yeah.
death.
All
Which
right.
in this case is either a tiefling, maybe a cambion, that is in quarters there with little skull
Oh,
and little scales there. That's nice. That's very pretty.
interesting.
Yeah, not your standard Grim Reaper, which I appreciate.
Yeah. So death. Where do you meet them? Oh,
So
sorry, you sorry, that
go
is
ahead. No, you
you
go.
meet at you meet at a funeral, locking eyes in a sea of black-clad mourners. Whose funeral is it?
Oh,
And
that
why is it
gives
so hard? Why is the thought of life without them so hard?
that gives such an interesting spin on flitting amongst passersby. These aren't people on the street; these are mourners, and now there's this trinket laden, like, what do I say? Unwelcome person at a funeral. Oh man. Um, yeah, just handing off stuff to people at like the worst time possible. Um, this okay, so I'll go with the tavern thing still. Especially since Treasure Island's been on the mind for some reason. I'm gonna go with this is a parent that owned the tavern. The reason that I was a child in the tavern is that's like we lived in the next floor above. The parent operated it, and now facing down, having to either like stay in this place and run this business that this parent built, and being stuck in this place that I don't want to be stuck in for the rest of my life, and also having to now do everything that they did without having the proper training, and also losing this person that will love you like no one else ever will, as a parent should, and now having a Haruspex, giving people rat bones at the funeral, and then also like handing off just weird stuff and prophecies, like poor timing, which is great for a patron. Patrons have poor timing.
Yeah. How do they make you smile after days of sorrow and grief?
I think it's just the ridiculousness of their presence at the funeral. I think that there's something about like a animal fur wearing, motley laden, just like uh
It's like, oh, of course you're here.
yeah, just a peddler of nonsense, and it's just the ridiculousness of like a break from everyone else wearing black to just this old woman going, "You want a bone? Here's a bone. Yeah, yeah. Here's a statue of, I don't know. You have this. This
Someone.
is important. Yeah." And I think that it's just enough that it's like it's not actually funny, but it's the most ridiculous. Like, of course this is happening now. This is what's the cherry on top of the shit sundae is this nightmare woman appearing at this parent's funeral and going, "Oh, did somebody die? Yeah, that's a bummer."
All right. And when they offer to leave the funeral, when they offer to leave the funeral prematurely, do you join them? Why?
I'm gonna say no. I think the prophecy is enough to just like be weirded out enough, and as she just kind of like shuffles off, it's kind of like the sea of black clad mourners kind of just consumes her as she goes away, and it's like I need to stay here at least until everybody else leaves, and also I can't imagine where she's going is going to be a pleasant smelling place at the very least. It's probably wet and unpleasant, just judging by the mildew smell that she had. So yeah, I think it's probably like a let's let that one go. If she'll show back up, then maybe that's the fates playing on their chords. But yeah, let's leave that one
And I realized it's my game, and I also realized we missed some. So there are additional questions to ask
for sure.
for each card. So the additional questions for where is, what is your emotional state when you meet them, and how is that changed by the end of the encounter?
I think the emotional state at the beginning is just like emptiness. Like it's that point of the stage of grief of just disassociation almost. But I think like after meeting, it's more one of confusion. Like she's taken you off the stairs of the steps of grief and onto like the escalator of what the fuck just happened, and I think that's we'll ride that for a little bit until we have time to process.
Fantastic. The escalator of what the fuck just happened.
Yeah,
I feel like
it's a good place to be.
I'm
The
now
broken escalator of what just happened. It's not moving
I'm
in the right
now
direction.
imagining the bit from the Fairly Odd Parents where they go to Escalator Land.
Yes, yes.
When do we get to the ride? This is the ride.
This is it.
All right. And then last
Next
card.
All right. Well, I had a good 3. It's the devil. So the Hanged Man, Death, and the
Wow.
Devil. I thought I shuffled really well. But they all found each other. That's nice. That's good for them.
Oh, there's the devil. Oh, I like this one.
That's why I say that every Tuesday.
And then let's see. So we'll answer these prompts first, and then we'll answer the
Sure.
card, the general prompts. In exchange for power, you must allow them to see through your eyes whenever they see fit. How do your eyes change once the deal is struck? Are there moments where your old eyes shine through? That is question 1.
Ooh. I think it's probably like it should be subtle, right? Like there's almost like a glaze that comes over them, almost like a white sheen. I'm trying to think of the actual medical condition.
Like a cataract?
Like glaucoma, yeah, or cataracts, yeah. Of almost like that milky kind of sheen that comes over. So it's like it's subtle to anyone who might be looking, because it's blinding to me, and it's almost like there's a lens of another set of eyes coming over mine. So the eye color doesn't necessarily change, it just kind of like dulls a little bit and becomes just like this milky kind of cloud. And then yeah, I hope that I get my vision more often than not, but again, patrons have terrible timing, so it's probably going to be at very inappropriate moments of trying to really perceive something, really check something out, and then she'll just pop in and be like, let me look. Ooh.
My turn.
Yeah.
What about this agreement frightens you the most?
I think what frightens me the most is the end game to it all. Is this just how this entity is having fun for a little bit? What happens if she gets bored? Because it feels too straightforward. Is the thing, is just like she's just getting some kicks out of it. Maybe she's just having fun for a little while. Maybe this is just, am I just another trinket in her overall collection, and does this actually matter? Because she says it does, but at a certain point, she seems like a collector of things. Am I going to end up as just one more of those things if I don't entertain her enough?
All right, and then the general questions is, how readily do you accept their terms to receive their power? Do you attempt to negotiate? Does that make things worse?
I think that there is a part of everybody that is always ready to accept that call to weirdness and adventure. And I think facing down a future of well, facing down a future that you know and facing down a future of the unknown is not something that happens to everybody, but I think that, there's definitely some people that have to come to that crossroads and go for the comfortable known or the glorious unknown. And, no adventurer picked the first one. So for the sake of this, being a warlock, running a tavern in a podunk town for the rest of my life until I am eventually buried in that same ground that, I just put a parent into, is not an appealing thought, and is, if anything, a terrifying thought, more terrifying even than the nightmares of this hunched, trinket-laden, crone. So I think that there is a moment of hesitation, but ultimately that hesitation is always going to be well overshadowed by the possibility of what she can offer. And I'm sorry, what's the other part of it?
Um, of the it just says, "Do you negotiate?"
Oh,
Is the little the little leading question, or
nah,
do
what's
you
the fun
attempt
in
to
that? I
negotiate?
I
Yeah,
think as somebody who personally doesn't read the just clicks the little checkbox that I absolutely read the
I
terms and
agree to the
conditions.
terms and conditions.
Yeah, you technically can get a lawyer anytime before checking those terms and agreements, and you can change those, but who actually does that? Like I don't have time for that. Okay, side thing that I haven't actually complained about on a stream yet, so I'm gonna do it in this one. I found out that Timu uses a photo of me to promote something. It's a photo of me from like around Christmas from like 3-4 years ago, and my head's not in the photo, but like it's these two um wooden things of like the green dragon and the prancing pony. They're like things you can hang on your wall, and it kept popping up on Instagram, and in the Instagram Timu ad I saw a picture of like somebody holding them, like with both their hands like this, and I was like, wait, that's me. That's me and my the dragon onesie that I got from Kigurumi, and that's my Christmas tree in the background, and that's the apartment I used to live in. So I technically could hire a lawyer, go to Timu, jump through a billion hoops, and maybe get them take it down. Probably not get any compensation. And then on the other side of it, if they decide that if I can't actually prove that it's me, they could countersue me. So at the end of the day, am I jumping through those hoops? Fuck no. Let Timu use that picture. Whatever. It's a little uncomfy, but it is what it is. So I think very much when it comes to Warlock packs, it's like, yeah, I could read through all of this legalese, but it's in Infernal or like Sylvan or some sort of language that I don't know. I'm gonna have to find a translator, and then not only a translator, but a translator who also knows like the legalese of the Feywild, and figure all this out. And otherwise, it's gonna be weeks, and I don't want to stay here any longer. So I think it's just like, yeah, you wanna give me stuff? That's fine. Just you're not gonna screw me over, right? I think that's the extent of the of the bargaining is this isn't gonna like
You're gonna
kill
be
me,
cool, right?
right? Yeah, this is gonna be okay, right? She's like, well, there's worse things than death, and then like that's the end of the bargaining. So
Okay.
yes.
And then, what feels possible now that never was before? Who else benefits from your power, and who is hurt by it?
What feels possible is anything feels possible at this point, which I think is the really exhilarating part,
Mm,
and I think the more interesting way for like the mortal side of the patron
mm,
pact to engage with is that feeling of trapped, whether it's in a literal sense or in a figurative sense of like trapped in a straight line of life, and now feeling like the possibilities are open, the world is opened to you, somewhat in a magical way, but also in a possibilities
mhm,
sort of way. The people that are helped remains to be seen. I get to go out and leave and perform great acts on this world, and hope that they will be benevolent, if not benign. The people
mhm.
that are hurt, I guess, also remains to be seen. But I think there's also something to anybody leaving a podunk town,
Hmm.
it's podunk for a reason. There's only so many people that live there, and every person is load bearing in a way of the town's architecture. If you take away the person running the tavern, if nobody else picks it up, then there ceases to be a tavern. If there ceases to be a tavern, there ceases to be a place for people to, unload or blow off steam, and then that has a domino effect. So I think there's probably also a consequence that trickles down that isn't readily in the mind of somebody who makes
Mhm.
a pact like this to leave and never look back, but will always inevitably end back in that same place and see the ramifications
Mhm.
of them leaving.
All right, and then last question: do you regret it yet?
Not yet. I do like the yet. I did see that the little ellipses yet. Nah, not yet. That's I'm sure that will come down the line. Um, that was very cool. And what a set of cards to pick. Um,
Mm, it's a
Dang,
good set.
it's a good
Yeah.
set. That's really cool, and I hadn't read through any of those before to kind of think about that. So I really appreciate your patience with that as well.
Yeah.
Those are great prompts, and as I'm kind of scrolling through now, um, yeah, I mean, I'm looking at like, well, I guess I don't want to reveal too much. Do you have a personal favorite? I guess that is what I'll ask when it comes
I I
to.
I do have some favorites.
Okay,
I do. So, but it's funny because they're like in different air. Like I don't have one where like all three of them like those are my favorites. It's like I've got
for
my
sure.
favorite packs and I've got so my favorite who is the Tower, which if anybody knows anything about tarot, there are no bad tarot cards, but if there was a bad tarot card, it's the Tower. um it's upheaval, it's chaos, it's usually signs of not great things to come.
Hmm.
um so the Tower is their form is ever changing, unknowable. Each time you glimpse a hint of recognition, they vex you with a different chaotic visage. What are three details you notice repeating across many of their forms? Do those details remind you of anyone? Eventually they speak. Whose voice do they use? And what do you feel as you look upon them?
I love that. That's very uh, some of these definitely give me like Magnus archives or Magnus protocol
Mm.
vibes of speaking in a voice that is far too familiar and perhaps unsettling because of that, and always shifting form. That's very cool.
Um, and then I'll share. So I did in the most recent Kickstarter update, I shared this spread, The Lovers and the Chariot, which are two of my favorites. So I love The Lovers What is one of my favorites, and it was one of the first ones that I wrote. So in exchange for power, they require your love, past, present, or future. Choose one. Past, the memory of your first love is erased from your memory. When you reach back into your memory for their face, your patron is all you see. Present, all love you feel for anyone in your life, friends, family, comrades, disappears, replaced by love for only your patron. Or future, for the rest of your life, you are unable to fall in love with anyone except your patron. And then, what makes you certain your patron reciprocates your love?
Ooh,
It's spicy.
that is very spicy.
Like some of them, some of the what or the yeah, some of the what's are a little um less painful. But as I was writing them, I'm a player that really likes to give my GM knives and
Mhm.
likes to hurt my characters, because I know that it'll make them better.
That's
Um,
right. Yeah.
so when I was writing it and I was talking to people, I'm like, well, like some of them are kind of mean, but like it's nothing that I wouldn't choose to do to my characters. And they're like, you can't, that's not fair. There isn't much you wouldn't do to your characters. I'm like, all right, well, true.
Yeah. Safety tools are important, but
Safety
also
tools are very important, especially
yeah.
when you're dealing with an inherent power imbalance.
Absolutely.
Consent is very important. Safety tools are very important. So that's one of the more spicy ones. And then let me see. Let me find a where. Where is? I think it's the Devil's Where. I really like. Where's the devil? Bum, bum, bum. Yes. So my favorite where, yeah, they replace your own reflection as you pass a window, staring where your own visage should be. Is there anyone else around to see them? Do they notice? They beckon you to join them, to step into the reflection. Do you? And are you scared?
That's really cool.
Because the devil is very like self-reflective.
Yeah. I love that. That's a really interesting interpretation of that. I'm learning so much. I'm learning so much about tarot today too.
Yeah, like it was very fun.
Yeah.
Like putting in the time, and I did a lot of reading and then a lot of talking with Emma as I wrote it. So it was really eye-opening to delve into these cards and to create this game based on them. And I think it made for some pretty cool stuff.
I would 1,000% agree with you. I'm absolutely just entranced by this. And you know, if anybody, I know there's always like the jokes of an oops all whatever game. I think an oops all warlocks game would really benefit from something like this. You know, there's something to a one shot, but especially to flesh out and really make everything a little different. Add that spice to it, whether it's romantic spice or otherwise.
I've done an oops all warlocks game where everybody had the same patron.
That's fun. That's good.
And it was like all the kids coming together that like didn't know that each other existed, but the patron's like, I need all of you to get your shit together and help me do this thing.
I like that. That's fun. Meghan, O Patron Mine is so very, very cool. It is currently on Kickstarter. How much longer is it?
It will
You've
be
already made your goal. That's amazing.
I have made my goal. It is, we
some.
made our goal the first day, which I was not anticipating at all. I launched the campaign when I was in Disney World because that's what a normal person does when they're on vacation.
You're the second person I've talked to who has launched a Kickstarter and then immediately gone on vacation. I believe, well, actually, the last person was Josh Simons, who launched it and then got married and then went on his honeymoon and was doing that.
I planned. I had the vacation planned already, and then when I was planning the campaign, I'm like, I want it to run for the entire month of February. So to answer your question, February 28th.
Yes.
Not realizing that was day 3 of an 8-day vacation. So we were in line at the Magic Kingdom for breakfast when I launched it. And immediately both my partners were like, are you insane? Like, we're on vacation. And one of my girlfriend's friends texted her and was like, did your girlfriend just launch a Kickstarter campaign on vacation? I'm like,
you're in line. It's fine. You have time.
Listen, I have time. And then it funded that day and I was crying at dinner. So it's fine. It was a great day. It's a great,
wonderful vacation.
It was a great time. But then it funded and I tried to turn my phone off for the rest of the vacation, which didn't really work, but we are fully funded. So it is happening. You can back it through February 28th. It's a very straightforward, it's digital for $10 or print and digital for $20. We've got really cool stickers. Mac designed a sticker variant of the logo from the front cover that is gorgeous.
It absolutely is.
The game is done and good to go, so I am aiming to get the digital copies out within the first couple weeks after the campaign ends and get the printed copies out within a month. So if you back it, we're aiming for a really quick turnaround was the goal, was like a nice simple campaign with a quick turnaround to get the zines out to folks. So I'm very excited to get to be sharing it with so many people. If you would like to make some warlocks, please back it, and
Please do.
you can get yourself 1,000+ warlocks.
1,000+ warlocks. That's a good tagline. Um, yeah, even if you're not looking for warlocks, if you're looking for just any sort of writing prompt or anything to
Yeah,
enhance any of your games with
weird little guy. Weird.
weird little
You want to make some
guys,
weird little guys? You want to do some writing exercises?
it's perfect. And
Lots of options.
as noted, less than a penny per weird little guy.
Yep,
Absolutely
it's
chock
a
full of
steal.
weird
You
little
know how
guys.
much people pay premium prices for weird little guys,
That's true.
and you
That's true.
and you can get away pennies on the dollar
Most
for
weird little
weird
guy
little
books are like
guys.
$50. This one,
Yeah, nope,
much more affordable.
$20, 1,000+ weird little guys. Seems like a
Uh,
pretty good ROI to me, but
incredible ROIs on your weird little guys. Um, yeah, you have, like I said, you already hit your goal, but that doesn't mean that you cannot back this project and get some weird little guys for yourself. So please check that out. Kickstarter, you can type in O Patron Mine, or you can follow the link that's in chat. Again, exclamation point patron for that. And Megan, you've created a ton of other amazing games, a few of which we've mentioned in our chat. Where can folks find more of those?
excuse me. You can find all of my games at megalinftw.itch.io. If physical media is more of your thing, I've got a handful, I think like maybe 4 or 5 different physical versions of my games at my Ko-fi shop, which is kofi.com/megalinftw, I'm pretty sure. So you can find pretty much everything there. Sanctuary and Sentinel is on Indie Press Revolution, as well as Tabletop Bookshelf, and Hunter Hunted is also on Tabletop Bookshelf. That's also new as of a couple weeks ago. So, and you can follow me on Blue Sky, which is pretty much where I'm exclusively posting because it's not full of Nazis.
Yes, we are also on Blue Sky. We'll do all the other plugs. I do want to ask you before we fully wrap up. Having done some work with Kickstarter before, how do you like it as a platform, especially thinking for other creators, other people who might be putting their projects out there? Have you tried other sites, or what does Kickstarter offer that you like better?
Yeah. So my very first zine month this is my third. So 2021, I used GameFound because that was around the time that Kickstarter was like starting to drive really hard into like blockchain NFT BS.
Yeah.
Which it has since pivoted from. So that's the reason why I ended up going back, to Kickstarter. GameFound was great. It was just it's Europe based, so some of the financial aspects of it were a little iffy, going from like an American banking system to a European banking system was a little iffy, but the platform itself was great. Kickstarter is very, very easy, and that's why I've kept going to Kickstarter, is that you get, and there's also no denying that it's just where most people go for things. I would like to check out BackerKit sometime in the future, because I know like there's a bunch of creators that I follow and really like their work, and I've backed a bunch of stuff on BackerKit. But for the scope of what I do, I never needed to use BackerKit because I never got enough. Like, it was never such a high amount of pledges, like backers and things, that I needed to utilize BackerKit. It was always like less than 300 people, and I can handle that myself. So I didn't need to like utilize BackerKit as a tool. So I hadn't looked really into it. But Kickstarter is just, it's very straightforward. It's got the best visibility. So from someone who went from knowing zero things about doing a crowdfunding campaign to this is my 4th Kickstarter, it's very intuitive, it's very user friendly, it's very straightforward. So I would definitely say check it out if you wanted a non-Kickstarter alternative. I've heard really great things about BackerKit, and I've backed several projects through BackerKit as well. So they're really building up their platform as as well. I think it's just a matter of taste.
Yeah,
And
eyes on it and everything like
yeah,
that. Yeah.
exactly. And as someone who's doing it all as a party of one,
Hmm.
Kickstarter is just the better option for me as someone who does literally every aspect of the campaign by themselves.
For sure.
It's nice to not have to do a more marketing and things like that than I already have to do. So having
Yeah,
the eyes on it
a lot of
is really
hats to
nice.
wear,
That's the life of an indie creator.
right?
You
Well, you
get
do
to
it
do
so
it
well.
all.
You make it look easy. But especially, I appreciate that insight because as somebody who's never, launched anything on anything, for those people who might be looking to launch games for themselves or projects for themselves, I think that's definitely a question. And when they look to do that research, it's people who have the experience that are always, your opinion matters on it. So I appreciate that. Awesome. Well, as we go to wrap up, is there anything else you would like to touch on for O Patron Mine?
No, I just get out there and make cool warlocks. Warlocks deserve better than just selling your soul to a demon for nondescript reasons. Like go out there and make cool patrons and
Or
make cool
Eldritch Blast?
warlocks.
Yeah.
And maybe make them kiss. I'm not your dad, but like my
Yeah.
recommendation would be like make your patron and make a warlock and then make them kiss.
There's not a lot of stuff that I officially endorse here at Sword and Keep, but I will officially endorse making your warlocks kiss. Make your warlocks kiss. They deserve it.
Kiss, just
Make a weird little guy. Make him kiss.
yeah.
Thank
You'll
you
be
so
better
much,
for
Meghan.
it. I promise.
They really will for having done so much for all of their short rests to get their spell slots back and everything. Make them kiss.
The least you can do.
The least you can do.
Kiss.
The least you can do is check out O Patron Mine on Kickstarter. You have until the end of the month to back it and get yourself a lovely little copy, or at least a PDF copy. It is beautiful in either form, and I highly recommend that you do. So consider checking that out. Check out Meghan's other things, other many games and socials. Again, you mentioned you were on Blue Sky. You have you have a card? Is that
Yes, I have a card that has all of my links. It's got contact form, it's got a link to my Ko-fi, my Blue Sky, my itch, all that jazz.
So if I were you, and I'm not, again, I'm not, Megan's not your dad, I'm not your dad. But I'm gonna go and probably get a copy of O Patron Mine. Probably wouldn't be a bad idea to stop by the coffee or Ko-fi or however it's pronounced, and tip a little bit just for being an awesome person in the space. And maybe give a follow while you're at it. Maybe pick up another one of Megan's amazing games over on itch. I highly recommend Hunter Hunted. Sanctuary is also a personal favorite. A lot of fantastic games over there. I haven't gotten through all of them. But the ones that I have, because I flat out don't have enough time in my life to go through the stuff that I love, but I have loved every single second of the time I've spent with Megan's games. So highly recommend, guarantee you're gonna have a great time. Yeah, please check out everything that she does and support her in any way that you can. And Megan, I'm so excited, so grateful for you joining us for another Sword and Tea. So excited for everything that O Patron Mine can do, and for whatever comes next. I do have to ask, are you working on anything? Any hints or anything you want to just
my work in progress list is a mile long as usual, but I will say that in the not so distant future there will be an announcement that is very exciting for me that I cannot speak on yet.
Okay.
There's a cool thing coming that will be announced soon-ish. I am not the one that is doing the announcing, so I can't tell an exact date, but there's something very cool and exciting that has been in the works for quite some time coming up. So follow me on Blue Sky and you can hear me shout about it once I am able to do the shouting.
Wonderful. Well, we will look out for that in the soonish future. In the meantime, like I said, check out all of Megan's links. And yeah, any other plugs that you wanted to do before I wrap us all up?
Um, no, I can't think of anything. Go check. There's so many amazing games right now funding for Zine Month slash Zine Quest. So just do yourself a favor and check that hashtag on Blue Sky and check out some other indie creators that are currently funding zines. Right now, you can get some really cool games for usually 15-20 bucks, and support some more indie creators, because indie creators, it's tough. It gets tough, but any way that we can support one another, the better. So definitely uh, do some searching of the Zine Quest and Zine Month. Rascal's been doing some great coverage of different projects that are currently funding. So you never know, your new favorite game might be funding right now. So
Absolutely. I'm a firm believer that indie creators are the ones that actually make the space go round. The big creators are always great, but I have never played a game where somebody didn't bring out a third party something that made the game all the better for it. So please support the indie creators out there. Um, yeah, thank you so much for joining us, Megan. Thank you to you, the viewer, for joining us. I hope you enjoyed another Sword and Tea. We'll hopefully have some more in the near future from any number of other great game designers, game creators, and folks in the TTRPG space. I am Derek Sword. I use he, him pronouns. I am the Sword of Sword and Key. Sword is my real last name. Yes, it's awesome. No, you can't have it. If you would like to find all of Sword and Key stuff, we have a beacons. You can check out beacons.ai/sword and key for all of our information. You can join our Discord, be a part of our community. Megan's over there. You can talk to other really cool folks, talk about cool things like this game or other games or your pets or the food that you're cooking or really anything. You can also find our socials. We are predominantly on Blue Sky and Instagram right now because, as Megan mentioned, we don't really want to be on a site that is owned by a Nazi. But you can find us at sword_and_key. I believe that's Instagram. Blue Sky, I think it's all smashed together, sword and key, actually spelled out with A and D. You can find our ongoing philanthropic endeavors like Palestine Children's Relief Fund, Canine Companions for Independence, and Fauna and Flora International. If you're looking to donate some money to a great cause, we recommend some of those. If you are looking to buy something nice for yourself or others, we just had a nice little holiday of celebrating your loved ones. You can always purchase, or I guess I should say, you can use one of our amazing affiliate codes for any number of our wonderful affiliates. And I'm trying to get to the first one that I want to talk about is Hit Point Press, which are the makers of Humblewood and Humblewood Tales and the Griffin Saddlebag 2 right there in the back. There you go. Okay. These are all the $50 books I was referencing before, but you can use our special code or our special link rather. If you go to our beacons, you can use our custom link, and once you do, it helps them out, helps us out, helps you out. And yeah, if you're looking to purchase music licenses, miniatures, the books themselves, the animated spell cards. They have tons of stuff over there, and we are very, very fortunate to be an affiliate with them. We are also affiliates with Long Dog Dice. If you're looking to get a custom dice set in your life, Long Dog Dice does make custom sets. They also make any number of other beautiful sets. You're guaranteed to find something you love. And you can use code Sword and Key for 10% off your first purchase. You can also go to Eldritch Foundry, make a custom mini, regardless of how weird your miniature is. Absolutely gorgeous.
This is a long
Yes,
dog day.
Jen makes such incredible stuff, especially the really chunky boys like that one, which is absolutely
This was for my Quest game, because all you use for Quest is a D20. So I'm like, I need a big honking D20.
Just need a big one. Yeah.
10 out of 10 would recommend.
That's gorgeous. And I've heard they age really well too, that sometimes
Yeah,
resin dice
this
can
one
discolor.
is. This one's like 3 or 4 years old.
Yeah.
And it's gorgeous.
Thank you for that display, because I'm still waiting for my set. But I purchased it just recently, so it's fine. So Eldritch Foundry makes custom miniatures, no matter how weird your miniature or your TTRPG character is. And you can even use like a 3D printer and get a subscription to print out as many as you want in a month. You can use code Sword and Key for 10% off your first purchase there. And you can use code EVA for Wishbone Cosmetics, which gets you 10% off of a cosmetics palette there. You don't need to memorize all of that because it is all on our beacons. It's all listed there. And if you click the link, for most of the links, it autofills the discount as well. Yeah, like I said, check out the beacons, check out our Twitch, which hopefully you're watching this on. If you're not, you're watching it on our YouTube, where we put all of the stuff once it has left our Twitch. So if you're watching either space, I hope you had a good time. Hope you enjoyed this Sword and Tea chat. We look forward to seeing you for our next one. And in the meantime, support some great indie creators, especially like O Patron Mine, and make yourself just a little guy, just a weird little guy, and make him kiss. We're going to be rating the Tipsy Tiger, who I believe are playing the Good Society. So spread some positivity over there. And until next time, take care of yourselves, take care of others, and we'll see you soon.